Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. One of the biggest storylines for this Nebraska program heading into 2024 is, can this passing attack take that step year two under Matt Rhule? Many of the Nebraska fans know I have been extremely vocal that if this passing attack goes in the right direction in 2024, you are looking at an extremely dangerous team in the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, the storyline of the passing attack, a lot of the conversation revolves around five-star Dylan Raiola, who y'all know how excited I am about Dylan Raiola getting injected into this quarterback room. And a storyline that I think is flying under the radar is the additions that Nebraska made at the wide receiver position as well. And in my mind, it's highlighted by former Wake Forest wide receiver Jahmal Banks, who I think truly is going to give that Nebraska offense a true wide receiver one in 2024. Want to get in to the film of Jahmal Banks, talk about what he brings to this Nebraska offense. Extremely excited to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Nebraska fans, whether we're talking position deep dives, the high school recruiting trail, the transfer portal. You guys continue to show a ton of love, a ton of support to the boys. Cannot thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Jahmal Banks. And why I think this is such a big storyline for Nebraska is, yes, the quarterback play left a lot to be desired for this Nebraska team in 2023. When you start combining, bad quarterback play with wide receivers that were extremely inexperienced, I think that's the result of the passing attack you saw Nebraska have in 2023, right? Marcus Washington goes down. Then Billy Kemp goes down. Nebraska was forced to start a lot of true freshman wide receivers through the duration of the second half of that season. You inject a guy like Jahmal Banks, who, again, truly can be that wide receiver one in this Nebraska offense. You start looking at this wide receiver room and say, all right, we got our experienced talent, right? And guys like Jahmal Banks and Isaiah Neyor. And then we have some young guys headlined by someone like Malachi Coleman that gives you a really high ceiling. Not only does the quarterback play, I think, get better for Nebraska in 2024, I think the wide receiver play gets dramatically better heading into that 2024 year. Now, I want to get into Jahmal Banks and what specifically he's going to bring to this Nebraska offense. And I want to start with what he can do working vertically down the field. Now, we've taken a dive into Dylan Raiola and how well he can push the ball down the field. You're truly looking at one of the better arms attacking that deeper third in the whole entire country. Now, you need wide receivers that can go make some things happen down the field. Jahmal Banks, 6'4", 205 plus pounds, is a guy that not only does he have a phenomenal frame, his release, his ability to create separation, working vertically, extremely impressive too. And when it comes to those 50-50 balls, when it comes to wide receivers making plays for their quarterbacks, Jahmal Banks really thrives. And you look at this Nebraska passing attack last year, one of the biggest problems was they didn't really have a guy that was attacking down the field. They didn't really have a passing attack that could make defenses respect what they were doing, attacking that deeper third. A 29% completion percentage on balls going 20-plus yards down the field, one of the dead last in the country. Jahmal Banks hopefully comes and changes that. Now, you get into the film, this is probably one of my favorite reps that you see Jahmal Banks display, right? You're talking 6'4", 200-plus pounds, working at the top of your screen against one of the best cornerbacks in the country in Torino Pride. A clean release off the line of scrimmage and knows how to create separation when working vertically. And you see how comfortable he is tracking the football, using that frame down the field. That's the first thing that I'm really excited about. And when you have a wide receiver like Jahmal Banks, quite frankly, Isaiah Neyor, I think, checks that box too, and a young wide receiver like Malachi Coleman, you have defenses that now need to respect some of these Nebraska wide receivers attacking that deeper third. And what does that do? When safeties have to kind of cheat over to the boundary, it's going to open up the short, intermediate, middle of the field as well for this Nebraska offense. So not only do you have Jahmal Banks making explosive plays down the field, you're also opening up this offense for a lot of other players as well for this Nebraska offense. Now, 6'4", 200-plus pounds, yes, he works vertically down the field, but I think what I love most about Jahmal Banks is the separation and how crafty he is in terms of creating separation sitting down in zone coverage, and being a quarterback-friendly wide receiver. Now, when you talk about route running at the college football level, yes, you need the athleticism to throttle down your speed, change direction, create separation. There's also a lot of nuance to route running as well. And I think a lot of those young Nebraska wide receivers last year didn't quite have that nuance yet. Jahmal Banks certainly does. His ability to be a quarterback-friendly wide receiver and be able to create space and sit in zone coverage, that's probably my favorite element of what Jahmal Banks brings to this offense. You look at how bad Nebraska was on those third and long situations, really not having a wide receiver that you could trust to find space and kind of move the chains. Jahmal Banks, I think, can be that wide receiver. You fire up the film here, working top of your screen. Two things that stick out to me about Jahmal Banks. One, pressing upfield, you see the ability to start and kind of create that separation from a physical trait standpoint, but also know how to sit it down in the zone coverage, find that throwing lane for Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman delivers an accurate ball, and you're picking up 9 yards on first down. Another rep that you see that, again, I think displays not only the athletic traits, but also the nuance and understanding that Jahmal Banks has at playing that wide receiver position, working at the bottom of your screen right here. One, really clean release off the line of scrimmage, creating separation early in his route tree. But more importantly, knowing that when he's running this crossing route, I got to sit it down. I have to be a quarterback-friendly wide receiver, get into a throwing lane, give my quarterback a throwing lane. Jahmal Banks, knowing to sit it down, be quarterback-friendly, big frame over the middle of the field, getting upfield. Those are the type of nuances that at times you didn't really see those Nebraska wide receivers have last year. Now, the explanation is a lot of those Nebraska wide receivers that were playing late in the season were true freshmen that they don't have that much experience. And so I think you're going to see progression, from some of those younger Nebraska wide receivers, but also injecting a guy like Jahmal Banks, who has shown that he can do it at the college football level, is going to be absolutely massive, especially for potentially a young quarterback in Dylan Raiola. Now, the last thing that I love about Jahmal Banks and what excites me about the fit in this Nebraska offense is what he can do in the red zone. We talked about the frame, 6'4", 200-plus pounds, phenomenal body control. When you talk about scoring in the red zone, you need these kind of targets. You look at Nebraska in the red zone last year, 115th in the country in red zone scoring. Offense is not only about moving the football between the 20s. You got to be able to score 7 points if you want to win those big games. Nebraska really struggled in the red zone, and I think a large part of that was they didn't really have that red zone target. Jahmal Banks, over the last 2 years, 13 receiving touchdowns over the last 2 years. That's more than Nebraska had the whole season in 2023. You look at what Jahmal Banks provides in the red zone. First thing I want to talk about is, the body control and frame that he displays when you're working in the red zone and you're trying to throw into the red zone. The throwing windows are going to be condensed because you don't have that much real estate. You got to have wide receivers that can be open when they're not necessarily open. And you see Wake Forest use Jahmal Banks in a ton of different ways. You're going to see working top of your screen here, just a simple back shoulder. And what you're going to see is Jahmal Banks just go up and make a play for his quarterback, right? Nice ball by Sam Hartman. The body control, having that ability to high point this football. Not really a wide receiver on Nebraska's roster last year that can make some of those plays. And again, you go back to the film against Boston College, working at the bottom of your screen right here. You fire it up. Very similar. Hey, we're going to throw it up, and hopefully Jahmal Banks goes up, makes a play. Body control, high pointing the football, using that frame. Jahmal Banks going to be a massive target in the red zone for this Nebraska offense as well. So you start taking a look at, why is the passing attack, why can we be so optimistic that the passing attack moves in the right direction? Not only do you have better quarterback play, right? Danny Kaelin, Dylan Raiola getting injected into this quarterback room. I think a large part of it is going to be there are better weapons, more experienced weapons for this Nebraska offense on the outside as well. And I think Jahmal Banks is going to be that wide receiver one. I think he leads the Nebraska offense in targets. I think he leads them in catches and probably receiving yards as well. He's a guy that can work short and intermediate route trees, create separation, but also a guy that can work down the field and provide that threat down the field as well. A lot of reasons to be excited about this Nebraska passing attack taking a step forward. Jahmal Banks, certainly one of them for me. We're going to take a look into Isaiah Nayor next up, but wanted to talk Jahmal Banks. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.